Hello and welcome to Sports by Compion. My name, of course, is Stephen Compion, and I am joined here by two of my favorite co-hosts in the whole world. Dan Gill and Corey Compion are both in the house today to help me cover some amazing college football coverage. Corey, how are you today, sir? What are you doing over there? What's happening?
I'm doing fantastic. I am on a very long road trip from the Pittsburgh over to New Jersey,
Lovely.
and am happy to join on this here podcast while I cross this beautiful bridge. So much water everywhere. It's amazing.
Lovely. Love to hear it. And, of course, Dan Gill is in the house with a wonderful... Is that a Scotland jersey, though, Dan?
No, it's actually like a custom soccer
Okay.
jersey.
Well, either way, the Aviators are also looking on point in general. Sharp.
It's got like blue crabs on the shoulder. That's what that design is.
Okay. Pretty cool. Yeah. Well, boys, we have some excellent college football to hop into today. Week 1 has officially wrapped up. For some reason, they're week 2, but, that's kind of confusing, so we're just going to mostly pretend it's everyone's week 1. Right, Corey?
Of course. No need to confuse the kids.
No, let's not confuse the kids. So hopping right into this, guys, we'll trace back to Thursday night action. Florida travels down to Utah and kind of gets their ass kicked a little bit, Dan. They haven't been ranked this year, and going into this game, they had a chance to maybe try to prove something against a powerful Utah team, and it did not happen for them. It did not work out. The West Coast domination continues from everything from the Steel Legion to Utah looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Utah looked pretty good the last couple of years, so they've been trying to prove themselves that they deserve to be in the top of the table when it comes to playoff time at the end of the year. So even though Florida's not ranked, knocking off an SEC team, I'm sure will definitely help them out there. Funny story, like one of the Florida players was posting making fun of the Utah stadium, and then, they go and lose by 13, so
embarrassing.
It's worth it, but yeah, no, I think good for Utah. Good statement game for them as they're working their way up.
Yeah,
in the league.
Good for them indeed. Off to a strong start. Corey, what do you think about your boys? Pete Fletcher's got the boys rowing the boat in the right direction. They get a 13-10 win over Nebraska. Very tight, maybe for his taste, but they do ultimately pull off the win. Do they still have that same quarterback over there? Because I remember that guy was pretty good his sophomore year, so this must be his senior year by now. Let's see here.
Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah. What was his name?
No, he's gone.
He's gone, that guy? Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. That's not him.
He went to a different school, or he just benched?
He's dead now, Corey.
Right. I don't think he's on the team.
Huh?
He got taken by the aliens? They raptured him?
Yeah. What was his fucking name? I can't remember, but it was kind of a cool name, and he was pretty good. I'm surprised that he washed out. Oh well. But yeah, so Pete Fletcher's got the boys rowing. 13-10, Corey. What do you think about this?
It's a bummer for the team that lost. They should have jinxed the kicker harder. Everyone knows that if you want to win close games, you got to jinx the other kicker. It's the only way. There's no way to just play better and do better. You got to go for the source.
Right to the kickers, huh?
Hexing the kickers, exactly. I think really what we're seeing in this particular game is just one team just had a stronger voodoo presence, and they just hexed the other team kicker harder.
Gotcha. So the Minnesota witch doctors are stronger than the Nebraska witch doctors. Understood.
Exactly. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the players themselves. It's more just who's doing more magical elements.
Right. And so now Michigan State is going to go ahead and do the same thing they did last year, which is just win a bunch of games and break their way into the top 25. Here we go, boys. We start off with a strong win over Central Michigan, 31-7. They are probably going to win some more games, Corey, because you know why? The Spartans are awesome.
I do like the Spartans. They're the green jerseys, right?
Yeah. That's my squad.
They're gonna have their work cut out for them in the back half of their schedule now.
How dare you?
When they play Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, that's
easy money.
That's not an easy stretch. They play Washington, and Washington's at the top of in the top 10 right now, so who knows how that one shakes out. It's in Michigan State, though. It's at
Ooh.
Michigan State, so home field advantage there.
Should be an interesting game. Anyway, the boys start off strong, 1-0. That's how you do it, Corey. You win 1 week at a time, right?
You love to see it.
I mean, unless you can pull off winning 2 games in 1 week, then in which case definitely do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it's tiring stuff. Your witch doctors, they need time to, like, recharge their crystals. But, if you can do it, then go for it,
Absolutely. Absolutely. In other news, a game that some of us saw, Georgia Tech versus Louisville. Now, this game was interesting because they were going on and on about the Georgia Tech quarterback throughout the game. And frankly, he had a really good game. Was out there doing the Lord's work. But it doesn't seem like it was enough, Corey. His team falls 39-34. Georgia Tech starts off 0-1, and good for Louisville hanging in this game because you could see going into halftime, Georgia Tech scores 28 points in the second quarter, but it looks like they really struggled in that second half. Whatever it was that Louisville figured out as far as their defensive scheme, it confused Georgia.
But it sounds like they're going on about him with good reason. I mean, did he throw a lot of picks? Because putting up 34 points, that's pretty good by anyone's standard.
I don't know how the heck this stats thing works because it only has box score here, and then you go to team stats, and that's about it. So they don't have actual player stats here for the most part. You only got one of the teams. Oh, it's right here. Duh. So he only
had 1 pick.
Only had 1 pick, but he had 330. But dude, I think he had that in the first half though. He had already had 3 touchdown passes in the first half, obviously with the 28 points there. So what the heck happened in the second half, Mr. King? Who knows?
Yeah, so you can't even really blame him for that. He did his part. His defense didn't do their part.
Well, they didn't do anything in the second half, dude. They scored 6 points in the whole second half. Not great. Anyway, none of us saw the second half, so there's no way to know what the heck happened, but good for Louisville. They figure out some things on defense, start off 1-0. Moving on to a very interesting game, Dan. What happened here, Dan? Was football taking place? Did Portland State know there was a game?
Look, this is one of those they got paid to lose games. No one wants to admit it, but that's what it is. Anytime you see an FCS, a low-tier school, go to a powerhouse like Oregon.
Well, have these guys a Division II? Is that what it is?
No, they're D1, but it's there's FBS and FCS. Okay. FBS is your bowl system.
Gotcha.
So your Penn State, Ohio State, stuff like that. But North Dakota State, where Carson Wentz went to, Towson, the college that I went to.
I've heard of some of those.
Yeah, Delaware, that's it's championship, so they do their playoffs a little different.
Right, so it's double A, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's one double A instead of one single A.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. So they're above D2, but they have these games. They call them warm-up games or whatever. But really, Portland State got paid God knows what to come take that game, and it's pretty much
just get run the fuck over.
It's viewed as it's gonna be a win. Now, occasionally we have upsets happen. One of them happened this week in a different game that we'll talk about later. But the poor mascot in this game had to do 526 push-ups because he does push-ups for the amount of points they've scored at the time. So he probably doesn't need to go to the gym for a week.
Good for him.
They should him laying on the field at the end of the game.
Corey, what do you have to say about our boys? Look, they got 2 different dudes in there, Corey. They got Dante, here, and they got Logan Gonzalez in there. Neither one were what I like to call successful, throwing a total of 52 yards and a touchdown between them. What do you have to say about the boys getting out there and trying to make some work happen against against Oregon? Is this acceptable for you from Mr. Gonzalez? Is that what you look for out of your quarterback? A mere 3 completions for 17 yards.
As someone who has been part of those games where you're literally just a speed bump and you're just getting trucked, really all you can do is just try to hope for so that you have a good game. Because at some point you just accept. Usually in like the first half, you just kind of know you're not going to win. And then you got to be out there for the love of the sport at that point, you know? Like when you're just getting demolished and like you are just see points popping up on the board all over the place. You got to be out there and just try to remember you're playing football and it's fun, because at that point you're not playing to win anymore. Like it's just not going to happen for you.
Fair enough. But yeah, Bo Nix had a good day. You know, about 3 touchdowns, 284 yards, 87 yards, only 4 incompletions. So good for him. You know, he made that transition from Auburn. He's probably coming into the NFL next year, right?
Yeah, and he's definitely one towards the top of the draft class this year.
Makes sense.
So there's a lot of eyes on him. I did look it up, by the way. Portland State is due to receive $575,000.
Let's go, baby.
Playing Oregon.
All right, that was worth it. That was worth it for the boys. Hopefully, my boy Gonzalez gets a little bit of that. Get the boys some food or something. Buy them a pizza
next year.
Buy them a pizza or something after that. Like shit, boys, we got our asses kicked. Let's at least get a pizza out of this.
Pizza party.
If one of them managed to have like a really badass game, then maybe he would like get the opportunity to get transferred somewhere else. You know, if he's like the bright spot on a shitty team.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know if any of these guys really showed anything.
That's good for them. Like even though they're going into that game knowing they're probably going to get wrecked, they were probably hyping themselves up like, yeah, this is my shot, man. I could, you know, if I do well, maybe I'll get transferred to another team, and then I can still make the NFL happen. Like, that sucks that none of them did stand out, or I don't know.
Dude, they had 1 tackle for loss. That's the only defensive stat they have is 1 tackle for loss by Mr. Michael Jackson. Other than that, not a single positive stat for the defense, who got 41 points run up on them. We've spent far too long talking about Portland State. Good for them. They got paid. We got to move on. Dan?
Yeah, but they just got the coverage they needed.
Honestly, they got the coverage. Good for them. Sports Coffee is not to say we don't cover the small people, but we do, man. We really get into the crevices and give you the information you probably don't need or want. But we're here to give it to you anyway.
And they got that $575,000 worth of coverage right there.
Let's go, baby. Hey, send us a couple of those dollars. You know what? Hold on. Before we move on here, our first sponsor of the day is actually Portland State. You guys may have guessed it. And in particular, their football team. Listen, this is a team that's scrappy. They'll play anyone anywhere. They don't care if you're number 16 or if you're number 1, man. They'll show up and they'll get your ass kicked by you, but they will be there. And they'll make some tackles. They had 81 tackles. That's a lot of tackles, Dan. 81. Almost 100 whole tackles. And you know what? They got a stud on that defensive line. Mr. Michael Jackson himself. I don't actually know if he's on the D-line. But either way, tackle for loss. You better believe they're going to put up some stats. Portland State. Screw education. We're going to get our ass kicked out here. What did you say, Dan?
I said he got himself a banner in the stadium now for that tackle for a loss.
Damn right. You better put my boy Jackson up on the wall, up on the banners. Shit. Fucking stud out here. Anyway, shout out Portland State. Proud non-sponsor sponsor of Sports by Compion. Dan was alluding to an upset earlier, and I think this is the game you were talking about. Is that right, Dan?
It's one of 2 of them, yeah. So TCU entered this game as a 21-point favorite. And, you know, there was a lot of questions and comments and this and that surrounding, not only Deion going to Colorado, but what he did since he got to Colorado. I mean, a lot of guys hit the transfer portal. He brought in a lot of guys from his team that he used to be on, including his son. His son's the quarterback. His other son's a linebacker. And there's just a lot of great, we all know who Deion is. We all know what he did in, the 1AA. But we were very skeptical if it was going to translate. And with TCU, being a team that lost in the national championship game, yes, they lost a handful of guys, including their quarterback, to the draft. But they still felt, pretty favored. And, this thing was a shootout. I watched the back end of it. And, they were just trading it back and forth.
Dude, Sanders had 500 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Like, This kid's good.
Well, and then
What is he, a
another
junior?
guy, Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter
For TCU?
is a two-way player. No, for Colorado. He's a two-way player.
Oh, Travis Hunter, yeah, right here. 11 receptions. Holy shit. He was all over the
He
field.
had,
And on
11
defense,
receptions.
and an interception.
Yeah, on
Let's
defense.
go, baby.
He had, I think he had 3 tackles and an interception on defense.
That's awesome.
So, like,
I think they said he played like 120 snaps.
Holy cow. But like, 2 of these guys,
like that.
Jimmy Horn
He's a big
Jr.
player in one of these games. Maybe he'll get snatched up by a bigger team.
Dude, and then Michael Harrison. Is that Marvin Harrison's son? No, right? Just another Harrison out there.
He's at that son's at Ohio State.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, big game from Colorado. Holy shit, this was a big win.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm curious to see when they run into a couple other teams, like because in a couple weeks they play at Oregon, then they host USC. So I think when they kind of start to run into the rest of the Pac-12, I'm curious to see where that goes.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, an amazing statement win for them. So can't dismiss what they did.
Absolutely. No, not dismissing what they did, but I think that's fair to mention because I think we see this every once in a while, like at the beginning of a college season, some small team have a huge win. You're like, oh shit, maybe they're going to be serious, and then by the late in the year, they're like, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call Colorado like necessarily a small team, but like,
no.
They definitely had a great run in the late '90s into the early 2000s, and then they've just kind of stayed in the middle of the pack in their conference.
Yeah.
Towards the, I mean, I think they went 1-11 last year, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
So they had a really bad last year, but that's where Cordell Stewart went.
Oh, okay. It's also where Brendan Schaub went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, big win.
Yeah,
big win for them.
See what they do over the next couple weeks.
What do you think about this, Corey? What do you have to say about TCU? In the national championship last year, they get absolutely wrecked. They lose their home opener. Quarterback Mr. Morris, those 2 interceptions. Are you worried about your Hornet Frogs?
Well, so what happened? If they were in the championship last year, did they just ship off all their players to the NFL, or?
Well, Max Duggar and their top receiver both went to the NFL. I'm sure they lost a lot of guys.
They lost their two of their key guys on offense went into the draft.
So then, I mean,
so that's tough to replace sometimes.
We were just talking about Max Duggar on Sports by Compton, actually, weren't we?
Yeah.
What was that, Cor?
Is Georgia going to suck now that they sent their entire defense to the Eagles?
No, see, that's not how Georgia works, because what Georgia does is they just recruit everybody. They just recruit everybody. So it turns out even if your seniors and juniors are a bunch of savages, it turns out so are your freshmen and sophomores. And they're just these absolute animals just waiting in the stable for you to put in. See, that's how it works with teams like Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah, I don't think TCU's necessarily built the depth in their program yet to really withstand that kind of turnover year in and year out.
Well, I guess we'll see, man. It's a rough first game for them. Who knows? Maybe Colorado's a lot better than we thought. They might get knocked out of the top 25 with this loss, though, huh, Dan? At 16?
They definitely could. At 17, they could definitely get knocked out.
Yeah, they're at 17, actually. So going into some of the other games, as we mentioned, Corey, Georgia is not struggling. Obviously, they get what's called a warm-up game against UT Martin. Come on now. But they honestly held back, it seems like, 48-7 over them. Michigan gets a nice warm-up game against East Carolina with a 30-3 win against the Pirates. Alabama goes against Middle Tennessee and absolutely destroys them. Ohio State, though, didn't look super exciting in this game, but I guess Indiana's not a speed bump team either, though.
No, I mean, early season conference matchups, so, it doesn't matter who they are. Conference matchups are always a little more in them, right?
Absolutely. California definitely didn't fucking struggle in their game against Nevada. 66 points. That offense looks like they're ready to get going again, and possibly first overall pick, Caleb Williams. Yeah, Mr.
Dude,
Caleb Williams. 5 touchdowns out of Mr. Williams. Holy shit.
They're like
Hey,
one of his throws just for a first down was not like he got chased to the boundary, and as he's like running out of bounds, he just tees it down the sideline. The wide receiver just goes up and brings it down. Like, I mean, you couldn't have put it in like a better spot if you tried.
The guy's good, huh?
I
personally am a little skeptical.
I don't see how he doesn't go number one.
I'm skeptical of those USC quarterbacks, though. Need I go through the list, Dan? Should we do it anyway? Let's go through the list. Matt Leinart, Mark Sanchez, fucking Sam Darnold,
Carson Palmer.
Carson Palmer was good though. Carson Palmer had a great career. I'm talking about like these high ass draft picks who really don't pan out. Just
I think the jury's still out on Sam Darnold.
Is it though?
Is it though? Do you think it's kind of like a Seattle situation where like the system is just so easy that any quarterback that goes there looks like a star?
They definitely have like a very West Coast pass happy offense there at USC, right?
The guy came from Oklahoma. He left Oklahoma and went out to USC. So like Oklahoma's been a good program for the last handful of years, and he brought it right over to USC.
Well, either way, we'll see what happens. Mr. Caleb Williams off to a strong start. Penn State puts it on West Virginia. Oh, West Virginia. And as you mentioned, Washington is in the top 10. They get a big win. Texas sitting right outside of the top 10, also get a win over Rice. Boise State kind of let them get the score run up on them. They used to be pretty good. Seems like they're struggling in the last couple of years. And then Tennessee,
they're definitely not like they were.
Tennessee, a big win over Virginia, not a pushover team, and they put up some points on them. Notre Dame is now 2-0. We mentioned earlier how this is week 2 for some people, so Notre Dame is now 2-0. Both of their wins have been blowouts. So Dan.
Yeah. That early season matchups. That's what we said all day.
Fair enough. So we'll probably start to see some more favorable, interesting matchups coming up here. Which, speaking of live games going on right now, LSU and Florida State are going to play tonight, so stay pendant to that. That should be a heck of a game. Rutgers pulls off a win against Northwestern, who has a big old mess going on with their program right now. So not too surprising there, but big win for Rutgers, who kind of struggles to get any wins out there in the Pac-12, right?
Big Ten.
Big Ten. Oh, sorry. But yeah, they struggle to get wins there too.
They're in Jersey.
And then Oregon State. I know. That's why. I don't know why I got confused there. But they moved over from ACC, right?
Yeah, I think they were in the ACC. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on here.
A couple of these other games. Another big upset.
Which one was
bigger than? I would say bigger than the Colorado one. Texas State. Kind of like this is another one of those. Someone got paid to go play this game.
Texas State
knocked off Baylor.
I did see
31. Baylor was favored 26.5 points in that game.
Oh wow, yeah, Texas State, never quite heard of them, but big win for them over Baylor in the state of Texas. Wow, they came out firing. 28 points in the first half.
Yeah, they're a Sun Belt team. They're a Sun Belt team if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Which has like App State and Marshall and Coastal Carolina. So I mean, like that conference has put out some decent teams in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think that conference actually upset a lot of people last year as well. But you were 26.5 point underdogs, and
that's a huge win.
Won by 11. Yeah, huge win.
TJ Finley with almost 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Joey Herbert with a big game, over 100 yards receiving with 1 touchdown. What happened with Baylor, man? No interceptions out of your boy Blake, so it wasn't his fault. 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. It looks like maybe he got injured because they put in Mr. Robertson, and he did throw an interception. So, yeah, maybe Blake got injured.
Yeah, unfortunately, don't know. Didn't watch that game.
Didn't watch that game, but that could be what happened, and maybe one of the reasons that Baylor team sort of fell apart there a little bit. One other game I wanted to kind of talk about was this one. Oklahoma, as you mentioned, probably paid Arkansas State to come up and get their ass kicked, but 73-0. Rough day for your boys. Arkansas State. We can't give them as much coverage as we did the last time to the other guys, but sufficient to say JT Stroud did better than the other guys did, both combined. And yeah, Dylan Gilbert, Gabriel, good game.
There was a video of Arkansas State's coach, Butch Jones, crying on the sideline.
Ouch. Don't be sad, Butch. Butch? I think I've heard of Butch Jones, though, haven't I?
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
Okay.
He used to be at Tennessee and Cincinnati.
Okay.
For college. And then, yeah.
Cincinnati had a big win, too. They blew somebody out. I mean, obviously they have a bunch of weirdos in their conference, so they kind of just beat up on those teams, like Eastern Kentucky.
Well, no, this is their first year in the Big 12, though. Because they have, like, a lot of teams. Yeah, there's a good handful of teams that just got shuffled around this year, and there's a slew of them happening next year, too. So, like, it'll be really interesting to see these next 3 years, including this season, with how these teams that made these big jumps to larger conferences are going to go.
I mean, Jones had a crazy game, 345 yards, 5 touchdown passes. Not bad. Not bad at all.
So is it conference shift like every year? Who's in the top of the conference?
No. It's just by, like, deals and such.
You typically, I mean, most conferences kind of have their typical people that are at the top of their bunch every year. Like, it's a given on, it's a given on SEC that, that Georgia and Alabama are going to be up there. And then LSU, Tennessee, and Georgia kind of rotate in and out every couple of years too. But, and then the Big Ten typically always has Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Iowa towards the top of the pile more times than not. So you don't know who to expect up, but then you always get the Cinderella story every year.
That's what makes college football pretty fun. There's always some crazy shit going on, honestly. Another game I want to talk about was our boys at Thunder and Herd pulling off a win. Good for them, 21 over Albany. Thunder and Herd has Cam Fletcher over there. Fancher? Probably. Not a bad game out of him. I just like to bring up the Thunder and Herd whenever I can because they have a cool name. And they produce Randy Moss and Chad Pennington. So, don't underestimate them. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean, Corey?
I hear you, man. That is a pretty cool name.
Corey had some great advice for me earlier that he sent me via video. Corey, do you want to share that with Sports by Compion, or should that just remain as like special advice about putting on your shoes and facing your palms and like such?
Yeah. So you got to put on your shoes. You got to run at your problem, which at this point it's safe to assume your problem is a deer. You're going to want to tape your hands together in a praying type situation. Slap yourself with your own hands as an intimidation tactic for the deer.
Right.
And then step 3 is to gnaw through your own hands.
Right.
You got to commit to that part. It's going to hurt because you are literally just like eating your own hand. But you can't back down at that point because now you look like a bitch, and no one wants that.
Yeah, plus the deer will think you're a little bitch too if you back out at that point.
Yeah, no.
Now, Corey, is it necessary to go through both hands, or will they maybe be intimidated enough after seeing you go through one?
Depends on the deer. Depends on.
Because step 1 through 2 might also work, right? Because like step 1 was you run up to the deer and you start yelling a bunch of weird shit at it, and hopefully that will work, right?
Yell at, make your faces. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, on my drive up from Jersey to Pittsburgh, I'm now on the return trip, but on the trip up, I kind of just recorded my stream of consciousness a few times. So I have just a couple videos like that of just, 4 hours in, several Red Bulls in, just kind of insanity. So that's good. And I may just send more of those to you. Just random videos. Just getting really good at sage advice like that.
Absolutely, and it's very important that we also share this with the people of Sports by Compion. Otherwise, they might not know how to intimidate a deer. You know what I mean, Dan? It's hard to intimidate those deers.
I mean, I got a bunch of deer in my backyard, and just you can throw a rock at them.
What? No, Dan. Gnaw through your hands.
That, Dan?
Were you not listening, dude?
I
Gnaw through the hands. Come on, what do you, like, use your hands for something or whatever?
get very detailed breakdown of how to do this.
You're being selfish right now, Dan.
Very selfish, apparently.
Anyway,
How much do you even need your hand?
seriously, who even uses those things?
I mean, hey, look, Jason Pierre-Paul's doing pretty well in the NFL.
Exactly.
Hand, so.
Exactly. No excuses, people. Well, anyway, Sports by Compion, out.